The machine was descending quickly. Maru could feel his ears popping and swallowed to relieve them. "Research station in range. Arrival imminent," the female voice said. He leant forward, looking out of the windows of the flying machine. Ahead he could see a clearing in the Shadeward forest, and the facility came into view. His eyes were immediately drawn to a series of 4 devices set in the centre of the clearing. They were, for all intents and purposes, huge bowls set upon a latticework of metal. As they grew closer, Maru could see that there was a spindle or a tower right in the middle of each bowl, acting as some kind of focal point. A series of low buildings were clustered between them. The bowls were rusted and dilapidated, showing the signs of being exposed to the elements for countless rounds. One had collapsed on its mountings, bent and twisted, pieces of it cast upon the ground. The others were oriented upwards, as if they were all aligned towards the same point in the sky. In front of the buildings was a flat area. Maru could see it would serve as a landing space despite being overgrown. What is that? Maru watched as the glade widened out beneath him, and with a light thump the flying machine touched down, the buildings in the nearest bowl a quarter of a mark in front of him. The machine's engines wound down and silence fell about him. He approached the buildings, walking first to the base of the nearest bowl. Up close he could see it was another creation of metal, rusting now, locked in place for all eternity. He could see the bowl was oriented towards a point in the sky as if looking for something, forlornly awaiting what? The receipt of some kind of message from afar? They could point it wherever they wished, but why at the sky? There's nothing up there. One of the buildings, the largest as far as he could tell, stood nearby. There was a doorway just ahead, but the door itself was gone, and he walked over to the threshold and peered inside. It was gloomy within, but he got the faint impression of a walled corridor lined with metal cabinets. He stepped inside. The interior was forbidding. Cabinets and row upon row of darkened controls lining the walls all the way down the corridor. Near the entrance they were overgrown with weeds and green, but further in, without the light, they were just covered with filth and muck. Maru tried a couple. None responded. One lever moved with a screech of unlubricated metal, the sound uncomfortably loud in the silence around him. He walked further in, flashing the lamp around to see where he was going. He came to a door. It too was covered with filth, but it was clear enough for him to make out a handle. And as he stepped up to it, he could see a sign too. He rubbed at it, trying to decipher the text. Control room. He pressed down on the handle. The door was stiff, but with little encouragement it opened. The room inside was better lit, light filtering through from dirty and stained windows on the roof and set in the wall. They were all stained with green, but there was enough light to see. Maru looked around him, seeing mundane and surprisingly ordinary desks and chairs. They were made of similar materials to those they'd found before. Atop the desks were panels of glass like dark material. Maru reached forward to touch one, but nothing happened. On the opposite side of the room he could see a large panel. He walked across to inspect it. It too was badly tarnished, but he could make out the most for the written text upon it. Main breaker, 16,000 volts. There was a large handle upright in a position marked as off. A quarter turn was another position marked on. Obvious enough. He reached out, pulled the handle down. He walked back and looked at the display, wiping the accumulated dust off with the palm of his hand. Text had appeared on the glass panel, and it flickered for a moment before coming clear. A stream of information appeared. It was meaningless to Maru, but the last piece made little sense. Last telemetry received. Status vessel report from Dumouriez. Life support systems critical. Hibernation mode engaged. Orbit stable. Maru scanned through the words. More of the ancient's confusing and peculiar text. A vessel? He looked closer. A vessel called the Dumouriez. What a strange name. What kind of ship? He looked up through the stained windows, looking out at the ancient bowl. He was convinced it was looking up into the sky. Somewhere up there? A ship that could travel above the sky? Maru blew out a breath through his lips. A round ago he wouldn't have believed it was possible to fly at all. Was it too much of a stretch of the imagination to think that the ancients might have taken it further and gone beyond? He looked about him again. If only I knew how to ask. This place might tell me. A secret here. But what is it? And then there was a flicker of light. Red and ominous. A hand clenched into a fist. A bare arm. A face with bright blue eyes that stared at him, stared through him, wresting unwilling secrets from his very heart. He recoiled in terror, squirming to escape the predatory gaze of her eyes, but it was to no avail. His mind was locked by hers. A trap. He could see her face in his mind's eye, cold and chill, but hauntingly beautiful. Blue eyes in the pale face, framed by a smooth fall of hair down one side. He felt his breathing quicken and his heart lurch at the thought of her. You are mine now, Maru of Amar. Mine.